So we've heard of service dogs for people who can't see, special therapy dogs for people with PTSD, and other dogs who can sniff out someone who's about to have a seizure.
Right here in the Triangle, a man trains a special breed just for children with autism, and it's changing the lives of families who often feel isolated and alone. 9-year-old Daniel has a twinkle in his eye and a sweet spirit. Diagnosed with autism when he was just 2, he does not talk and has difficulty interacting with others.
It's very saddening sometimes because he doesn't relate to other kids. I know he feels left out. I know when he's on the playground, he's kind of in a world of his own. All the other kids are playing a game and he's really not involved.
But Daniel is getting a new friend, a service dog named Boston. The two are still getting to know each other, but look how he responds every time Boston gets close.
With the Briard, they love it. I mean, this is their world. They just want to breathe the same air like as their child.
Mark Mathis started training Briards when his son was diagnosed with autism nearly a decade ago.
With my own son, seeing him come out of his shell, literally talk more, interact more, be in a better mood, it was just an overnight kind of quality of life change.
He says Briards are highly intelligent, and because they're a herding dog, they stick closely to their autistic child. And that's good for children like Daniel who like to roam. This is Mark's training video. You can see how the Briard puts itself between a child and the street.
It's a herding breed, so what we're looking for is something to help contain and control Dan so he doesn't put himself in dangerous situations.
And in just a few more weeks, Boston will go home with Daniel and be a forever friend.
It teaches compassion and empathy, and that's sometimes hard for kids with autism to understand.
Now, Mark Mathis runs a nonprofit, Con Service Dogs. He works with families so anyone whose autistic child is fit to have a service dog like this can get one. We put more information about Con Service Dogs on our website with the story on abc11.com.
Con Briard Service Dogs. Scammer or savior? Lately, there's been a dust-up about Con Briard Service Dogs, owned by Mark Mathis. There has been more than several allegations about aggression towards other animals, particularly dogs, and even aggression towards people, and even aggression towards the children that these dogs are supposed to be serving. I'd like to look at the issues here. First, I'd like to look at some general information about breed choices and selecting for a service dog. Here we're looking at IAADP, which is the International Association of Assistance Dog Partners, finding a suitable candidate for assistance dog work. Let's look at what they have to say. Breed choices. Many breeds of dog have been experimentally drafted into the assistance dog field. The most popular for service dog work are the Golden Retriever and Labrador Retriever. Samoyeds, smooth-coated collies, and rough-coated collies are some of the newer breeds that are showing promise. Some of the more unusual breeds out there assisting disabled handlers are a Pointer, an Otterhound, a Dalmatian, an Irish Setter, a Papillon, and a Greyhound, showing you can't always judge a book by its cover. Guide dog schools primarily use Labs, Goldens, German Shepherds, Lab Golden Crosses, some smooth collies, and a few flat or curly-coated retrievers, a few Vizslas, a few standard poodles, an occasional boxer, some Australian Shepherds, and a small number of carefully screened Dobermans. Some of the breeds placed by hearing dog schools include Welsh Corgis, Poodles, Shelties, Springer Spaniels, Labrador, and Golden Retrievers. Also, many mixed breeds adopted from animal shelters have become hearing dogs, generally ones that appear to be of Spaniel or Terrier ancestry or a Collie mix. Then we go into the factors to consider in making a breed choice. Hereditary breed traits. Each breed was developed for a purpose. If considering a breed developed for hunting, herding, or guard dog work, realize that the traits that make a dog of that particular breed an excellent hunting dog, an effective sheep dog, or a successful guard dog do not disappear just because the traits are no longer highly desired by most dog owners. The ancestral urges to hunt, swim, chase livestock, sound an alarm, kill predators, or drive away strangers that dare approach are lurking under the surface. Some of these traits will interfere with an assistance dog's reliability. Breeds classified as guard dogs, flock guardians, or fighting dogs have aggression-related breed traits that are particularly worrisome. Assistance dog partners who do not have previous experience handling a dog with a strong protection drive, a fierce territorial instinct, or a hereditary dog aggression problem should not attempt a partnership with one of these breeds. Those who do choose to work with one of these breeds must respect the darker side of its nature, learn how to avoid triggering it, and never ignore the potential for a misunderstanding. Occasionally, one hears of a Doberman or a German Shepherd or a Rottweiler that seems to lack the normal hereditary breed traits that earn such dogs the reputation of being formidable guard dogs. But atypical specimens like that are extremely difficult to find, nor do they come with a lifetime guarantee. Realistically, your odds on a pup from those breeds growing up to be an adult that lacks his breed's guard dog instinct is very slim. Hereditary breed traits should always be considered part of the package when making a breed choice. Now let's look at some information about Briards as a breed. Here we're looking at some guidance from an actual reputable breeder of Briards. Let's see what the breeder has to say. She'd know better than anybody. There are stories of Briards gently guiding small children from harm's way and protecting them from would-be assailants. Briards have a natural instinct to protect their charges. Protection. They are a protection dog. As herding dogs, they also have a natural instinct to chase and to herd. Each of these qualities can be endearing related to children. Taken to the extreme, however, these traits can lead to big problems, such as the Briard misinterpreting roughhousing between kids as aggression, or developing aggressive behaviors because they have grown overly protective of their children. Guarding of the children should not really be encouraged and can be best kept in check by a parent or individual who is clearly the dominant member of the household. This person can teach a young Briard what is acceptable behavior. Parents need not fear teaching the Briard not to be protective. The Briard's instinct is so keen that should their child, or adult for that matter, ever truly be in danger, the typical Briard will rise to the task of protecting them. They are protection dogs. Most people who can recognize it can see well-trained Briards protecting their families in subtle ways. Briards will tend to place their bodies between would-be danger and their precious charges. They can be seen to gently bump or nudge small children to separate or keep them from wandering off or away from potential harm. Should a small child wander out the front door unnoticed, the Briard will no doubt sound the alarm to the potential danger at hand. Sound the alarm. If not kept in check, Briards can develop a desire to herd or nip at rowdy kids who are running in order to move them, keep them together like a flock, get their attention, or keep them in line. Again, this is best kept in check by a watchful and in-control parent who can teach the Briard between acceptable and unacceptable behaviors. The kids must also be trained about the best behavior around dogs. Briards generally do not see children as leaders, and Briards can have dominance issues with children. They must be taught their position in the family and what behaviors are acceptable and unacceptable with children. They can certainly ultimately be taught to accept direction from all of the members of the family. Briards are large and physical, therefore roughhousing with a Briard is best avoided. This goes for a home without kids too. Many behaviors are genetic, and the interactions between Briards and children are somewhat predictable based on family history as well. As those of us who love the breed are well aware, Briards are not the dog for everyone, and a puppy with great promise must still be raised properly. All of the cautions and lessons that apply to raising any Briard in any home go doubly for the Briard in a home with children. So the breeder is warning. They're a great dog, but with children, one must be extremely careful because of the nature of the Briard. Briard temperament. What's good about them? What's bad about them? And that is a beautiful Briard. Don't they look so cute and puffy, like they couldn't harm a fly? I only wish. Vigorous and spirited in body, independent and purposeful in mind. The Briard can be serious or a humorous clown. His light, supple gait, like that of a large feline, has been described as quicksilver, permitting him to make springing starts, abrupt turns, and sudden stops required of a shepherd dog. Matching his stern appearance, he is aloof and discriminating with strangers. Okay, here we go. He is aloof and discriminating with strangers. So a Briard can be expected to have issues with strangers. Keen-eyed and watchful. Socialization must be early and frequent so that his watchfulness does not shade into aggression or shyness. So two of the problems you might find in a Briard, especially one not well raised, is aggression or shyness. Spookiness is unfortunately present in some lines. Most Briards are territorial, so they want to protect their territory with other animals, but usually good with the pets in their own family if raised with them. So what we're hearing here is they can be aggressive towards other animals, if not their own household animals that they were raised with. You should discourage his habit of poking or pushing people and other pets with his huge, powerful head in an attempt to keep them within boundaries. Briards like to control situations and require a confident, consistent owner who knows how to lead. However, they are very sensitive, sometimes overly so, and must be treated with a light hand. This breed has a long memory and doesn't easily forgive or forget harsh handling. If you don't want to deal with vigorous exercise requirements, rowdiness and exuberant jumping, especially when young, destructiveness when bored or not exercised enough, suspiciousness or fearfulness when not socialized enough, potential aggression towards other animals, stubbornness, chasing and nipping at things that move, such as children, joggers, other animals' bikes, frequent brushing and combing, or regularly trimming the coat short, shaggy dog syndrome, i.e. debris clinging to the coat, water soaking into the beard and dripping on your floors, waiting lists, and a high price tag a Briard may not be right for you. Keep in mind that the inheritance of temperament is less predictable than the inheritance of physical traits, such as size or shedding. Temperament and behavior are also shaped by raising and training. If you want a puppy, you can avoid some negative traits by choosing the right breeder and the right puppy. Unfortunately, you can't usually tell whether a puppy has inherited temperament or health problems until he grows up. If I was considering a Briard, I would be most concerned about providing enough exercise and mental stimulation. Briards need regular opportunities to vent their energy and do interesting things. Otherwise, they will become bored, which they may express by destructive chewing. Providing enough socialization. Standoffish by nature, Briards need extensive exposure to people and to unusual sights and sounds. Otherwise, their natural caution can become shyness or suspiciousness, which are difficult to live with. Potential animal aggression. Some Briards are dominant or aggressive towards other dogs of the same sex. Some are not good with cats. Remember, these are herding dogs with strong instincts to chase. Stubbornness. Briards are capable of learning a great deal, but they can be stubborn and manipulative. You must show them through absolute consistency that you mean what you say. But Briards are also so sensitive that if you correct them too harshly, they may shut down and become even more resistant. Then we have the shaggy dog syndrome of all the nasties that get in their coat. So there's a little more about Briards. So we see repeatedly, we're warned about the temperament of a Briard. They're great dogs, no doubt. But we are repeatedly warned about their problems with strangers, their problems with other animals, particularly other dogs, the problems with children. The problem is those come into play if they work in public. So in public, these natural traits can be especially problematic when we're talking about working as a service dog. First, there's the issue of strangers. There are strangers everywhere in public. Strangers walking around every corner. Strangers coming up behind them when they didn't notice. Strangers everywhere. Then there is the legitimate service dog and the untrained fake service dogs they're going to encounter routinely. And then there is behavior out in public that will trigger off, these herding instincts as well as other instincts. Kids running, kids jumping, kids tussling, just to name a few. Let's see what some other trainers have to say about a Briard as a choice for a service dog. Okay, let's take Carla Brewster as an example. She's going through her titles, certifications, training here, so you know what position she's coming from. By the way, I have trained and placed many, many autism service dogs. I have been a pro service dog trainer since the early 90s, so have I. After a 2-year apprenticeship with a reputable organization, I have also attended 3 nationally recognized dog training schools, apprenticed with the author trainer Joel McMains, was a co-founder of the IACP, am the head trainer for my organization and an organization in Portugal. Have trained trainers worldwide in the selection process, training, and placement of service dogs with children with autism and diabetes. I have been a consultant for the Department of Defense and several private military contractors. years and have trained over 5,000 dogs and the owners over the years. I have also owned, bred, and shown Rottweilers, Bucerons, and Finnish Spitz. Anyone breeding dogs and not doing genetic health clearances is a backyard breeder and needs to be castrated and flogged. How do you know dogs don't have hip problems at this age? The only way to know is to x-ray. And then she goes on to give a personal opinion of the person she's speaking to. All right, here's what she has to say about the selection of a Briard as a service dog. As a professional dog trainer and pro service dog trainer, my first question is, who in their right minds thinks that a Briard is an acceptable service dog candidate, let alone for children? I raise Rottweilers, but I do not place them as service dog candidates. I use them for myself, but that is different. I am a professional and can wash a dog at any moment if need be. Then she asks where this person got their education and training on placement of service dogs. She asks about, do they do health clearances? She asks why he bucks what the organization, what the community as a whole feels is unethical. She asks what training he has with working with people with autism. And she asks if these dogs are altered prior to placement. And we're talking about placing these dogs with people that are dog inexperienced, just in general, dog inexperienced. That's what we're talking about here. We're not talking about placing these dogs with people who are well familiar with their traits and characteristics. And take Becca Stockton Rossi. This is what she has to say. I must say, Briards are my dream dog, and I've spent quite a bit of time learning about the breed, spending time with them, and have had them in my training classes. That being said, I know enough about the breed standard to know that I have to be selective about when I invite one into my home, because I have a keen understanding about breed tendencies and how one must be prepared to adapt their lifestyle to meet their needs. Protective, guardian, aloof, independent. These are just a few of the words that are used to describe them repeatedly in the breed standard set forth by the Briard Club of America. Compare that to words used to describe more commonly used breeds in the service dog world. Kindly, outgoing, non-aggressive towards man or animal, easy to please, adaptability, gentle nature. As both a dog trainer and a parent, I know which descriptive words best fit the needs of a child handler. While I may very much love the herding group as a whole and have my heart set on one day owning a Briard, I am also realistic that it would take a dog that doesn't conform at all to the breed standard to fulfill the role as a service animal that is handled by an inexperienced person, let alone a child. And take Tiffany Magnet. This. I have also spent time around Briards, and I would never suggest one as a service dog, no matter how much I love the breed. All organizations have failed placements once in a while, she said, but they do their best to rectify the situation. And then Carla responds, thank you, Becca. I have to wonder about the intelligence of anyone placing certain breeds as service dogs, and then to place these breeds with kids. Well, we see what trainers think about the choice of a Briard for service work. Now let's move on to Rikon specifically. Here is just one of the families that had a problem with a Rikon Briard service dog. I'll read it for you. As I write this, my daughter is undergoing an MRI of her brain. She hasn't been the same since the incident. As you may know, our 10-year-old has been through the hardest year of her little life. Her autism, generalized anxiety disorder, ADHD, and mobility issues have made life very difficult for her. Her one bright spot that got her through 2017 and the first half of 2018 was going to bed each night, counting down the days to receiving her service dog from a Briard-only autism service dog training facility. She took care to choose a special name, Okami. She has always been fascinated with the Asian culture, and wolves are her favorite animal. Okami means wolf in Japanese. She dreamed of this pup every night, a little picture beside her bed. She wrote her New Year's resolution in her journal, take care of Okami. The day finally came to bring her home, Mother's Day 2018. And the dog that we had waited a year for and spent $13.9 thousand on to receive for our daughter broke a stay at the doorway, entered uninvited, jerking the leash from my husband's grasp, and attacked our two older dogs. Went for the throat of the female. The male was so confused by what was happening, he ran to the corner. She then went after another large dog in public. Seems to ignore smaller dogs, animals. We immediately alerted the organization and were told to put our two current dogs, both about 9 years old, which is a senior dog, in a kennel facility on our own dime, somewhere for a few weeks to give Okami time. We did not agree to stress our current dogs that way. We were never offered in-home transition services, and never prior to the graduation date was it suggested that our current dogs meet Okami. The owner of the organization told us he will never guarantee that one of his dogs will not attack another animal in public. We told him that was not safe, did not fit the ADA's definition of what would be fit for public access, and was a liability for us. What if a child got in the middle of a dog fight? Even if we only kept her in the neighborhood, we have neighbors with large dogs. Larger females especially seem to trigger. And children we love, what about them? He said we only needed to worry about our family, that they were not our problem. We disagreed. This was when we stopped phone communication and switched to only email. We knew we needed to act fast because we couldn't risk our daughter being traumatized further by witnessing this type of aggression again, or bonding further with this dog and being left with an expensive pet that would not serve her needs as a service dog. Via email, we told the owner we needed to return the dog for refund right away. He replied, "We will absolutely take her back." At the time of return, we asked the employees receiving her for our refund, and they told us that the owner of the SD organization would handle that when he was back in town in 2 days. Instead of a refund, we received a letter that stated he considered the dog surrendered and that the failure was our fault, a sentiment echoed by his supporters, as has been commented under my Facebook review of his business, and we would not receive any money back. 20 days later, he placed Okami with another special needs family. What training or socialization took place in the interim, I do not know, but hopefully it was significant. The family was on Fox News and ABC News raising funds. The new family is now very upset with us as well that we are saying anything about the incident because they do not want Okami labeled as reactive or dog aggressive. We only want good things for the other family and for all the other families going down this road. That is one of our concerns. We also want good things for Okami and for her to find where she fits in all of this. All we have wanted from day one is a refund. We have asked for it multiple times, even offering a portion of the funds. Being the parents of a special needs child is incredibly expensive. We go to 3 therapies a week, have multiple medications, and have had to find and pay for a replacement pup, which we are owner training under the supervision of a local professional. Our daughter still has not come out of the nightmare. We are hopeful but need support. Of the $13.9 thousand, less than 300 came from family and friends through fundraising. The rest came from our own pockets through the sale of our home. All we are doing is sharing our experience, and we are being publicly shamed and ridiculed by this organization and its owner on their Facebook pages. The owner seems to have his supporters convinced that we are simply disgruntled because we changed our minds and wanted our way, so we are emotional and spreading misinformation. What I am saying is the truth. It happened to us. We do not want this to happen to another family. We are done being bullied. And here's another family that had a big problem with a Con service dog. The family featured in the news piece at the beginning of this video, no less. And here are some favorable reviews on Con's review page. They also mention aggression.
They are jealously attentive to a fault to their charge. I primarily train for children. I do train for adults, but as children and parents of children, I say they are the play police. If you are tickling your child and they start screaming, you will get a nudge. You will get a bump. You'll get a warning. Hey, what are you doing? I don't like the sound that you're making my sheep make. That is not okay. And sometimes my parents say, I gotta go put him in the crate just so I can play with my child. That's what they do. That's why shepherds use them to guard the flock, to guard the sheep. That's why when a wolf comes knocking, it's to the death. It's a great trait. It's an obnoxious trait that sometimes we have to look at tempering and pumping the brakes on because we can't have dogs that will fight to the death being service dogs if they feel threatened. So I work a lot.
So I think it's pretty clear by now that the dogs, at least some of the dogs that he puts out, has aggression problems. That is if you're lucky enough to get a dog. Look at this individual who paid $10,000 and didn't receive the money back or the dog. I reviewed numerous videos of his dogs performing, and they didn't seem all that well trained to me. They can't follow even simple commands, at least the ones I looked at. Couldn't even follow simple, basic obedience commands promptly or without an issue. Take a look. Now, just to be clear, he places these dogs at about a year old. Some a touch more, some a touch less. So the question now is it worth it? For a family, is it worth it to risk that? Well, let's take a look at that issue.
Good job. Come No, Gummy. Down. Down.
Okay, you're going to have to roll the buggy back closer to her because you guys are kind of far away.
Place.
Stay.
Roll the...
There you go. That's good. Tell her stay.
Stay. Good girl. Stay. How many boxes?
Are they on sale?
Now. It's actually now $30 and oh my goodness, that box is the box is done. Okay, got this hero.
Alright, pick up the leash. Tell her up, remember? You have to use her command. Yeah, she's kind of tangled. Good girl. Remember, put her on the other side of the cart. Nope. Nope, not that side. Other side. She knows where to go.
Okay, girl, you're gonna have to help me out.
Okay.
They don't seem to task either. I have heard of one or two that claimed are actually tasking. Let's take a look.
Up, up. Up, up. Up, up. Up, up. Up, up. Come on. Kisses? You can ask her for some kisses.
Here you see that the dog isn't even responding to the command to do the task. The break in the video is hers, not mine. She clipped off the video and then reset it when they actually got the dog to lay on the child. They call this deep pressure therapy, and it's a weak task at best for legal purposes. If it's very specifically trained in a specific manner, it can pass. But it's very hard. It's considered a very, very weak task, even if it's very structured and very specifically trained. Let's look at the next example.
Feeling better? A little bit?
Mom, I think I found something that she might like a lot.
Okay, I mean, leave it.
Leave it.
Feeling better?
Mom, I think I found something that we would all agree on.
Do you feel better?
Yeah.
You ready for it?
And here we see the dog again doing deep pressure therapy. I didn't see the trigger, what triggered the dog into this. I can't comment on the performance from beginning to end because it's never shown beginning to end. What I do notice is the dog is interested in everything but the child. What's going on across the way? What's on the floor? I was a little nonplussed by the attention of the dog to the child that the dog is charged with taking care of. Now, a big thing with Ricon is what they call curbing. What they are using it to mean, in guide dogs, it means to have them poop in a gutter. But what Ricon means by that is they claim that their dogs prevent children from running into the street. Curbing. I've reviewed several examples of this. Let me show you, and then I will explain to you my thoughts on it.
All right, we're going to demonstrate task we call curbing, which is to keep the young man from running into the street and basically maintaining a perimeter. In this case, hop up. Good job. Here, up, up. Good job. You're actually going really fast.
This is not a task. I saw a herding breed dog running alongside a boy, bumping and nipping at him. The second go round, he actually grabbed his pants and did not prevent the boy from going into the street. In fact, the boy didn't even try to go into the street. So it's a bunch of smoke and mirrors on this one. Here, I'll show you. Here's a couple other completely non-trained dogs, herding dogs, trying to herd children. Take a look.
Enjoy the nice weather. Thank you. Yeah.
Sammy, no?
Really okay? Yeah, he just bit me.
I do believe with neurological brain-based disabilities that the dog that's going to be a service dog needs to come from the herding group. I believe that because I believe it to be successful more consistently and less risky. Our dogs don't chase squirrels, they don't run after cars, they do not need a fence.
So you see in the first clip of the Border Collie, it could be said that that Border Collie was curbing to keep that child away from the dangerous photographer. In the second clip, it could be said that the dog is curbing to keep the child away from the road, aka the driveway, if it was a road. Imagine it was a road. The dog could be said to be keeping the child away from the road and away from danger. We all know that's not true. It was a farm Border Collie with no training whatsoever, doing herding dog stuff with a child. That is what herding dogs do. So Rycon is using that and putting a spin on it to make it look like it's a service dog task, and it's just a herding dog naturally doing what herding dogs do. The wife of Rycon Service Dogs, aka Mark Mathis, even publicly admitted that the dogs are not task trained, that they're used because they're naturally good for autistic children. And here it is, more or less, in the words of Mark Mathis himself. First, he says he tasks trains. Then, a little later, he says he uses only their natural instincts to avoid enforcing something on the dogs that they don't like or they don't want to do or not happy doing. Take a look.
It's just not an inanimate object. It engages them. It performs tasks. It is task trained to engage a child, to redirect, to refocus, and to take what is stressful and anxious and turn it into something that's positive and comforting. It's a weighted vest. It's a security blanket. It's a big fuzzy thing that licks your neck and takes you from the place of stress and chaos to the place of giggling and tickling and things that you associate with good times. The same thing a dog does for a lot of us, or did for a lot of us when we were children. The right drive, with the right temperament, with the right intelligence, with the right behavior. It isn't that I can't train any dog. I mean, you've seen the dog shows. You can train any dog. It's just that we are starting with something that we can leverage what they do naturally instead of imposing upon them something that might be unfamiliar or pushing down their throat. Or in the worst case scenario where they perform their job but they're not happy doing it.
So for those that don't understand or know the significance of this, federal law defines a service dog as a dog that has been individually trained to work or perform tasks for the benefit of an individual with a disability, verbatim. A dog that is only doing stuff that dogs do naturally every day is not considered a legal service dog task. That's considered emotional support. And emotional support dogs are not legal service dogs. Take a look. All right, take note in the left-hand corner. This is from the U.S. Department of Justice, Federal, Civil Rights Division, Disability Rights Section. This is guidance on service dogs. There's their seal up in the other corner. What is a service animal? Under the ADA, a service animal is defined as a dog that has been individually trained to do work or perform tasks for an individual with a disability. The task performed by the dog must be directly related to the person's disability. What does do work or perform tasks mean? The dog must be trained to take a specific action when needed to assist the person with a disability. For example, a person with diabetes may have a dog that is trained to alert him when his blood sugar reaches high or low levels. A person with depression may have a dog that is trained to remind her to take her medication. Or a person who has epilepsy may have a dog that is trained to detect the onset of a seizure and then help the person remain safe during the seizure. Are emotional support, therapy, comfort, or companion animals considered service animals under the ADA? No. These terms are used to describe animals that provide comfort just by being with a person, aka untrained behaviors. Because they have not been trained to perform a specific job or task, they do not qualify as service animals under the ADA. However, some state or local governments have laws that allow people to take emotional support animals into public places. You may check with your state and local government agencies to find out about these laws. If someone's dog calms them when having an anxiety attack or a meltdown like autistic children do, does this qualify it as a service animal? It depends. The ADA makes a distinction between psychiatric service animals and emotional support animals. If the dog has been trained to sense that an anxiety attack is about to happen and take a specific action to help avoid the attack or lessen its impact, that would qualify as a service animal. However, if the dog's mere presence provides comfort, even if it's laying in your lap, that would not be considered a service animal under the ADA. All right, here is the official written out reasoning behind the guidance by the Federal Department of Justice. Section by section analysis and response to public comments. So this tells you their reasoning and what they're expecting. So let's go down. Here we go. The department received a number of comments in response to the NPRM proposal urging the removal of the term do work from the definition of a service animal. These commenters argued that the department should emphasize the performance of tasks instead. The department disagrees. Although the common definition of work includes the performance of tasks, the definition of work is somewhat broader, encompassing activities that do not appear to involve physical action. One service dog user stated that, in some cases, critical forms of assistance can't be construed as physical tasks, noting that the manifestation of brain-based disabilities, such as psychiatric disorders and autism, are as varied as their physical counterparts. The department agrees with this statement, but cautions that unless the animal is individually trained to do something that qualifies as work or a task, the animal is a pet or support animal and does not qualify for coverage as a service animal. A pet or support animal may be able to discern that the handler is in distress, but it is what the animal is trained to do in response to this awareness that distinguishes a service animal from an observant pet or support animal. The NPRM contained an example of doing work that stated a psychiatric service dog can help some individuals with dissociative identity disorder to remain grounded in time or place. Several commenters objected to the use of this example, arguing that grounding was not a task, and therefore an example inherently contradicted the basic premise that a service animal must perform a task in order to mitigate a disability. Other commenters stated that grounding should not be included as an example of work because it could lead some individuals claiming that they should be able to use their emotional support animals in public because the dog makes them feel calm or safe. By contrast, one commenter with experience in training service animals explained that grounding is a trained task based upon very specific behavioral indicators that can be observed and measured. These tasks are based upon input from mental health practitioners, dog trainers, and individuals with a history of working with psychiatric service dogs. It is the department's view that an animal that is trained to ground a person with a psychiatric disorder does work or performs a task that would qualify it as a service animal as compared to an untrained emotional support animal whose presence affects a person's disability. It is the fact that the animal is trained to respond to the individual's needs that distinguishes an animal as a service animal. The process must have two steps: recognition and response. For example, if a service animal senses that a person is about to have a psychiatric episode and it is trained to respond, for example, by nudging, barking, or removing the individual to a safe location until the episode subsides, then the animal has indeed performed a task or done work on the behalf of the individual with the disability, as opposed to merely sensing an event. One commenter suggested defining the term task, presumably to improve the understanding of the types of services performed by an animal that would be sufficient to qualify the animal for coverage. The department believes that the common definition of the word task is sufficiently clear and that it is not necessary to add to the definition section. However, the department has added examples of other kinds of work or tasks to help illustrate phrases do work and perform tasks. Thus, the department declines to depart from its long-standing approach at this time. As we see, everything hinges on the training. Naturally this and naturally that isn't going to cut it, no matter what that naturally thing is. It is the training that makes a dog a service dog. Simply being with the person, simply naturally following them, simply naturally running around with them, none of that is an actual service dog task. It might be things that a service dog will do, but it's not a task. And to be a legal service dog, they have to perform at least, well, I'd say two. Work or perform tasks, plural, is what the law says. So I would expect at least two legal tasks for the dog to be a service dog. Similarly, Deep pressure therapy is at best, unless it's highly regimented and highly trained, it's more of that naturally. Pet dogs naturally climb in your lap every day. So that's not going to really be a legal task. To be a service dog, a dog has to be individually trained to do service dog tasks. And the wife, she admitted just in a very blanket way, their dogs are not trained like guide dogs. Guide dogs are trained to work or perform tasks. So she has admitted in a very blanket way that they don't train like guide dogs are trained for tasks. She didn't make an exception. She didn't say, well, some of them are, some of them are not. I have heard of one or two that have been task trained. One of them was at the request of the final person the dog ended up with. They wanted the dog to do this or to do that, and they were assisted with that. So I can't say that the dogs are never task trained, but the blanket way she said that leads me to believe that the majority of the dogs are not legally task trained service dogs. That makes them emotional support dogs. That makes them illegal to take out in public places. If a person is okay with all of this, then we can look at the service you'll receive. What if you have a problem? Because apparently these dogs, a portion of them, and not a small portion, they're either likely to have problems or do have problems. So if you go with this company and you have a problem, what can you expect as far as service? If you keep it hush-hush, don't say anything to anybody, and buy into whatever Mark Mathis says, you might be fine. However, if you do that, you're setting up other families to have problems, and possibly one of these days, one of their children is going to get sorely injured or killed. Do you really want to be responsible for that? Anybody who mentions it publicly, he attacks immediately. He likes to use trigger words. If you complain publicly about his dogs, then he finds a way to throw pit bulls in there somewhere. If you have other household dogs, they're going to be pit bulls. He likes to throw animal abuse, the words animal abuse around, that you must have abused his dogs. He's done it to several people already. The people that are going to be involved in lawsuits or are involved in lawsuits, both have had that accused. Both cases, not true. Take a look. I scrounged up pictures of these families' pet dogs. In no case were these pit bull mixes not even close. They looked like lab mixes, and one looked a bit like it had a little bit of Shar-Pei in it. These dogs were not pit mixes in the least. On the abuse allegations, that innocent bystander, she did not say it was okay to run around hitting dogs. She said that in the middle of a dog fight, before the dogs kill each other, that it might be okay to swat one to break up the fight. The other one was just a ballsy allegation towards one of the other families that they abused the dogs. He admitted, well, he said that the other family that he accused of having pit bull pets, he accused them of animal abuse too, but that comment was deleted before I could capture a screenshot of it. So this is a pattern of his. When you disagree with him, when you call him out, If at all possible, he works pit bulls into it, and he likes to use the trigger word animal abuse in order to get other people up in arms against you, because a lot of people don't like pit bulls and most people don't like animal abusers. So he uses that to get people on his side, but it's a bunch of BS. He says he health tests the dogs prior to placement. Let's see. Okay, great. But the thing is, hips and elbows can't be done until the dog's 2 years old. He places them at around a year old, give or take, some 10 months, some 12 months. He places them at a year old. The hips and elbow health clearances physically cannot be done until they're 2 years old. So that is not true. Here, take a look. And here it is. Up in the corner, you can see it's the OFA site. There the title is Briard. OFA chick health testing requirements to get them cleared. This is what health clearances refer to, is to pass these tests with the OFA, or sometimes there's a comparable entity that you register with, but this is what health clearances refer to, doing these tests. You see it says hip dysplasia, minimum age 24 months for all tests. And this is directed by the Briard Breed Club, when these are done, when they're good to be done. I have to note, the reason it is 24 months, and it's that way on every breed, I do believe. The reason it's 24 months is that the large dogs, who are the ones at risk for hip dysplasia, their growth plates in their hips don't, in and around their hips, don't close until 24 months. Anything done prior to 24 months would be deemed invalid because additional growth could change things. So they wait until all growth is stopped in the hip area to do the hip clearances, so they get an accurate reading for the dog's adult lifetime. That's why it has to be 24 months. Mark Mathis claims he's been operating as a nonprofit for 10 years and has placed hundreds of service dogs. Let's take a look. If you'll notice, kind of towards the bottom, you'll see the date of 2014 as the initial application date. So that's not 10 years, that's 4 years. Just saying. And let's look at his tax information, the Con Service Dogs tax information for the year 2015. I personally find it interesting. I don't know about other people. So let's take a look at this. We see he got donated $43,914, so almost $44,000, but we're going to disregard that. That's contribution, gifts, grants, blah. He made from his program services a profit of $107,694. So, just to check up, because, I'm that way. 107,694 divided by 13,000, because he charges 13,000 and a little bit and some change for each service dog. That comes out, if I just round it out to 13,000, that comes out to 8 service dogs in 1 year. He trained 8 service dogs in 2015. So 16, 17, 18. All right, hundreds. That's between 8 and hundreds. That's a long way in 3 years. I mean, the last I heard, the person I heard that I talked to that went there, he had 30 dogs. He had 30 dogs, a roundabout is what they said. So how is he putting out hundreds of service dogs, you know, since he started? We see that his sign up was in 2014. This is 2015's tax return. So eight service dogs. He put out 8 service dogs. What he claims are service dogs. It's not adding up. Just saying. Here's a magazine article from the same time frame as the taxes. So, this is my review, my thoughts on Con Briard's service dogs. I wouldn't touch them with somebody else's 100-foot pole. I have not met their dogs. I have not been there to their facility. I wouldn't want to after all this. This is all the information that I would personally need after doing the due diligence and the research every family should be doing. There is a reason that he sells his dogs for less than the going rate out there. You get what you pay for. And then sometimes you don't even get what you pay for then. I wouldn't touch it. You're begging for problems, begging for heartache. I wouldn't do it. But, you know, that's up to each individual family to decide for themselves. But at least know the real truth, because it's obvious he blows a lot of hot air that doesn't mean a whole lot of anything. So if you're considering him and he says something to you, verify it. Get paperwork on it. And then go to the agency that issued the paperwork to verify that it means what he says it means. And just in case anybody has anything to say to me like, oh, you made that up, I have the full screenshots. Most of these comments of his are from Facebook, public groups in Facebook. I have the screenshots, the full screenshots, but that would be cumbersome for this video. So I took out the applicable part that I was addressing and put it in the video, but I have the full screenshots. So don't even go there. Don't even go there. Do I have a personal vendetta against this guy? Nope. Nope. I saw him years ago planning to do this. Okay, whatever, great idea. I have nothing against this guy prior. I didn't know this guy prior. My agenda, truthfully, I'll tell you my agenda. My agenda is that people don't have their bank accounts drained and are left with nothing to show for it but heartache. That's my agenda. I don't like to see the families of disabled people raped this way. I don't like to see the families that people have donated good money to have their money wasted and defrauded in this way. That's my only agenda, is the protection of disabled people from unscrupulous dealers that do stuff like this. That's my agenda. Anyway, till next video, bye.